Okay.
That's way better than I thought.
Yes.
Sophie,
Tim.
the pod's #1 fan.
Yeah.
I reckon you've watched 3/4 of the episodes that are thus far released by my calculations, which is wildly impressive.
Oh.
And
Xavier might have done that, but when there were 3.
yeah, for sure. And as a special treat and a kind of honouring that fact, this will be episode 50.
Aww. Thank you. Wow, is it 50 already? That's crazy.
Yeah, I think Ochan, who was just released, was 44. I must have 5 in the bank then at this stage. Yeah.
Okay.
Before we move on to you, because you have an in-depth life story and whatnot, just out of my own curiosity, what is the pod like from the viewers' side of things?
Well, I watched most of them, as you know, kind of when I didn't know you particularly well, and certainly didn't know people like Zav or Ted, and it felt like I was in your brain, especially knowing you more now. It's like, oh, that's just how you think all the time, how you unpack everything. And I love getting to know people's stories, so I find it very interesting.
Nice. Being a little passenger on, because I feel like I'm very, very much the same, but obviously taking that journey into my own hands. But nice. Okay. Anyway, we haven't talked properly for like a month, and you are usually a 24-year-old corporate girly, find yourself in the way. I'm super interested to hear. I mean, you're pretty unique and weird in your own ways, but also everyone's follows the stereotypes of their peer group to some extent. So I'm super keen to hear about the perspectives of a 24-year-old white chick in Sydney, because I don't feel like we don't hear about, well, we hear about the influencer types, but just the kind of normal ones almost have a smaller voice than most categories, I feel. But first, you've been on this backpacker trip in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And it feels like something's changed for you in how you see the world. So what is that?
That's such a typical basic bitch goes on a
Yeah, so
backpacking trip, comes back, it's like, my life's changed. I don't think the answer is that surprising. It's just a real gratitude for the life that we have here, which I already knew, but it just brings it to a different perspective. I've learned that hostels are my version of cocaine, and I love it, and I love people, and I loved learning more about the world, not just Vietnam where I was, but excuse you, people from all over the world taught me about their country, how they live, what a normal day is. So I think I just had better understanding of, I don't know, the world.
And you not had much access to that before?
I definitely had access, but I haven't prioritized it anywhere near enough. You know that my history and geography skills are something that can be improved on. You're just going to be licking your feet the whole time.
So do you feel like it's popped the bubble of, oh, this is what life is, i.e. the northern beaches, and maybe there's other lives being lived all over the world?
Yeah, I think it brought that to reality. Obviously, I knew that, but just how different that is.
Is there an image that comes to mind, like a story of someone describing something?
I mean, Ho Chi Minh, you haven't been to Vietnam, have you? I'm sure it's similar to some of the places you've been in, that it's just thousands and thousands of scooters and chaos. And despite it being very clean, there's like raw meat sitting in the sun on a 35-degree day, the whole day, and people buy it in the afternoon. And you're like, oh, okay, this is a little different to home. Our refrigerators, our way of living is not necessarily right. It's just how we do it.
How do you see Australian society and those ways of us doing things differently now?
You already know. We're a bubble. We're so protected. It's a nanny state. And I found that even in Europe, when I first went to Paris and there was like a pothole or something in the ground, there was just nothing around it. Whereas at home here, there'd be a fence and someone paid full time to freaking guard it. So it puts that in perspective, and also just how big and what a small population we are. Is that the question you asked? I forgot.
Sure. I guess, are you finding yourself interact with like things like work and things like, okay, I have to pay taxes and there are speed cameras on the road and all these little things that are part of life. Are you interacting with all that differently? I mean, just even noticing you in the last hour, kind of struggling more to almost amp yourself up to work in a sense. I don't know if that's just a today thing, but you've noted it before where I think you seem to be so wired into being of service and maybe a fair bit of people pleasing involved in that. And then maybe you've just been like explored your own kind of, what does Sophie want? Oh, Sophie quite likes being in hostels and seeing the world, and is it harder to then jump back into what this world expects of you?
Yeah.
And you've always done.
For sure. The post-trip blues were very intense in finding the motivation. I love my job. The people that I work with, I think I mentioned to you, like came back, got a promotion, which is so sick, and an incredible opportunity. One, being tired because I basically didn't sleep for the 2 weeks I was there, made the most of the hours that I had, and then came back to a wedding and a bunch of events. I think that's the biggest part of the lack of motivation, but also just going, wow, the world is so much more than the little rabbit hole that we put ourselves in.
So what was driving you? What dreams or ideals were pulling you into a certain direction before, and how have they been altered and affected now, if at all?
I wish I had a great answer to the question, but I think it's always that uncertainty and wanting to do the right thing or have the answer. I think that's still a fault of mine. One of the biggest influences to me actually booking my flights to Vietnam was you, when we were at my house, and you're like, Sophie, just dream bigger, like dream 100 times bigger because you can do it. And I did, and it was one of the best things that I've done. And now I've come back, I'm like, right, what's the balance still between work hard and set yourself up for the future, but also make memories now? I'm still.
Okay, so that work hard and set yourself up for the future is something that's pulled you for a long time, I imagine, and continues to do so. What does that even look like for you? Are they specific goals and goalposts? Is that just a vibe of...
They're goals without any backing.
Just
it's
make
just things,
money, like...
Yeah, it's things that I've said to you before that I want in my savings, if everything went wrong, if my parents, because I live with my parents, even though I dog sit most of the time, but say they had to move, if I had to move out, get a new car, get a new phone, get a new laptop, everything at the same time, I'd want to be able to cover it and not rely on anyone.
Yeah.
That's not an exact figure. And obviously...
But then you can keep on, you get there, and then it's like, but what if the electricity goes out, and then what if there's an apocalypse? And it kind of keeps on going on.
So I'm aware that it's not a necessarily, like, it doesn't make sense, but it's a comfort thing.
Are there
for
other
me.
things other than money that are giving you that comfort and safety feeling?
Potentially networking. There's plenty of couches that I know I can crash on, plenty of jobs that I could get in a day through relationships that I've built in the professional environment. But I haven't put much thought into that.
And like, were there any things that, just in this trip, are there any things that you've noticed and been almost surprised by of, I didn't know that was in me, or I didn't think that exactly would come up, or maybe in that way, or I kind of always presumed that would be a thing, but maybe it is or maybe it isn't? Have you learned things about yourself?
For sure. Originally, it was meant to be a solo trip, ended up being 24 hours of a solo trip, but then my best friend came for the rest of it, which I'm so glad she did. But I was very afraid, and about 2 or 3 days before my flight, I was like, thank God Ella is coming.
What were you afraid of?
I don't know. Something bad happening, or me just being an idiot, or probably mostly me making a stupid decision. And I was traveling Europe last year and got very sick, and that just, it sucked. And had I been alone, that would have been way harder. Just having someone to look out for you a little bit is nice. But yeah, 3 days beforehand, I was stressing and very happy that Ella was coming. Got to the airport, the customs line when you arrive was like 2.5 hours, 35 degrees inside, no fans, no anything. Feels pretty awful. I made a friend in line. He was a great bloke. And then my hostel had emailed me saying, use one of these 2 taxi brands. Should have got Grab, but didn't research beforehand. This should be the price, but neither of those companies were there. So I just jumped in a random taxi. Didn't have a SIM card. I was like, oh, have I already made a mistake? And this is where I get scammed the first 5 minutes after leaving the airport. But I was fine. And then I got to my hostel, like, oh, great. And walked in my room. There are 4 people there. And immediately I was like, do you guys want to socialize or are we having chill time? They all said socialize. And I was like,
Were they all just on their phones?
they were all in their beds, curtains kind of half open. So
no one brave enough.
No, I didn't want to.
Neither did Sophie.
Didn't want to, because some people don't feel like doing that. I'm so aware of how often I'm saying the word like.
I've never been presentation mode.
Have I changed? Yeah, I within 5 minutes realized that I would be absolutely fine. Had Ella not have come, I still would have had an incredible time and kind of became the cult leader of the hostels, is what I like to say.
I distinctly remember on the first backpacking trip I ever did, so it was little 18-year-old Tim, and didn't quite get the need to break through ice socializing. And just like those 4 people, I found myself as one of those 4 people in a hostel. I distinctly remember where it is. I could put it on a map in Medellin in Colombia. I think there were maybe 3 of us, but just kind of all on our phones, all kind of just in bed. This one lady came in and did exactly what you did and just started introducing herself and talking to people. And sure enough, all of us were just too self-conscious or scared or whatever and lazy and ridden with excuses to do that. And that's all it needed. And suddenly we were at dinner and having drinks and it was all great fun. But I remember distinctly learning, like, get that in your head. You can be that person. And for me at that point, it probably took ages to slowly let that soak in. And in a lot of situations, I still don't use that. But to have it at least in the toolkit, I feel like that's your natural state. Similar to Zav of, I'm just going to be the ship going through the Arctic ice, just breaking it all. I was built for this. Did you obviously run with that? Did you find that you did have a limit and you ran out of energy, or it just gives you that much back that it's just this self-replenishing?
Yeah. Ella, my best friend, you haven't met her, have you? No. She's very different to me in, like most people, her social battery will run out, and mine does, but not on this trip. I just didn't sleep, I don't know what it was. I was waiting for what's the saying, the other foot to drop, or the whatever, waiting for it to hit me and be exhausted, but it just didn't. And I kept being like, hi, and making my little
Did it feel like your brain is on do, or was it kind of just normal but constant?
It was just exciting. And I was known as the person that knew everyone's name. And I think I was just approachable, and I just thrived on people going, oh, what's their name? Or what are we doing today? What's the plan? And just being that inclusive.
Yeah.
person.
The ultimate HR manager.
Oh, yeah. But something to go back to your question before I went into that ramble of what surprised me. There are two more things I want to talk about. One was how I'd react to being sick overseas, because that was a source of a lot of anxiety previously. And after 4 days on the Hajong loop, your gut's pretty ruined. You're eating all sorts of food, like the street meat that has been sitting in the sun. And despite, not feeling the best, there was one particular moment in my favourite dessert place. Ella and I have been trying to find anything remotely similar. We haven't.
What kind of desserts are there?
This was coconut milk, condensed milk, yogurt, and these hot, sticky tapioca pearls.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
It's the sinus.
I heard.
Yeah.
And then
With the mic.
I'm sure it would. And then I had watermelon and sticky rice in mine. Ella had mango. We found it on the third last day in a food tour, and we had it 5 or 6 times. So
it's a really good Vietnamese dessert place that me, Sab, Ted, Lily always go to in Melbourne though. So
we're going.
They might have that stuff. It has like durian and jackfruit desserts, and I always get that one. But
all right, thank you. We're going. But I remember sitting on the second floor, and the stairs were the dodgiest stairs that I've ever seen. So not a quick escape. And we're in this food tour. There's 15 or something people around. Like, I'm about to projectile vomit on everyone. What do I do? And you're thinking through where's the best option. I was fine, but Ella said she looked at me. I'm like sweating and white. I'm just like, oh God, I'm not okay. So I was really proud that I felt fine and it wasn't a source of anxiety. And the second one, I like rules. And you may notice some might describe me as type A, and I'm not usually a risk taker. But on the back of the bike, after the first 2 hours, so we're 4 days going around the mountains, dodgy roads, you've got no control. I had an easy rider, they're called, so I wasn't riding the bike myself. I was on the back. Hands off, listening to music, dancing the whole time, which was such a shock. I thought I'd be holding on for dear life, not taking any chances. But it's like, if we're going to crash, what's holding on really going to do? Obviously, if there's a super sketchy part, you hold on. But I just changed the attitude to vibe.
Was that supported by the people around you and the vibe, as you say, do you think? Or was that literally just your own internal ability to logically process those thoughts? Or
combination. This one Kiwi guy who I think is almost the male version of me. I hope he doesn't get offended by me saying that. He was vibing and encouraged me, but it was mostly just me going, let's have fun.
Yeah.
And the difference from holding on, my seat as well, most people's was like this. Mine was slanted. So going downhill, I was working so hard to not
was that
slam
for
into my
safety
rider.
Or something, or just
no? They all have their own bikes,
okay.
So there's no. Yeah. So a few times you get close with the easy rider, and I was complaining to people, going, "Are your legs cooked?" Trying not to practically dry hump the guy in front, and then realized how much it was different. Kind of, yeah, but the muscles just locked in, and it was great. So good. I want to show you 4 hours worth of photos.
Was there another thing that you said in your, or those the two that you wanted to say?
Those are the two. So just getting comfortable with risk and really relaxing in the whole trip, like whether that be trying different foods, letting go on the bike and talking to people, doing things that Sophie a year ago would have been way more uptight about.
That's been your big thing this year since I met you, is unraveling your self-prescribed like tightness. This feel like the culmination of that process, or just a significant but early step in the ongoing process? Do you have
That was
more
a little
to go?
too much emphasis on the early, mate.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Is this the end or is this just the beginning?
No, I don't know. I think we're always going to grow, and what's the point of continuing life if that's it?
But there's so many different vectors to grow on, and if this was one, unraveling yourself, loosening up a bit, that you felt needed addressing, I think most people, okay, I'm going to address that. Maybe it has a culminating celebratory holiday, and then, okay, time to move on to the next kind of vector. I've kind of done that for now, at least. And there's another thing, or does it feel, no, this is just the start, I'm going to keep on exploring that?
I think in terms of uptightness, it was more a demonstration of what
Exactly,
I
the
was
final-
letting go. Not the final, but certainly proving to myself that, okay, you've done great, or you're doing great.
Cool.
Does that make sense?
So, yes, and excuse me. When we had that chat, I remember the one on your back veranda, and the result of which was, I think you sent me that night.
Yeah,
or a
but
day
flights
later or
that night.
something, the flights. I was like, geez, okay, fucking solid.
Yeah.
It's like Harmon when he was texting me about Guatemala, and then the next day he sent you a selfie on the lake. I was like, what? Do you, having been back now, and maybe it's too early and you're still grieving and back in on a holiday, but do you feel a seed planted in your subconscious of the next equivalent thing? Is it another trip? Is it a completely different trajectory in your career or in some other aspect of life, or what's going on?
Two answers. One, definitely more trips. Vietnam was a little bit proving to myself that, or having another crack at, do I like travel? I expected to have the travel bug when I got home last year from Europe, and I didn't, for some obvious reasons. And also it wasn't what I expected travel to be. And this proved what I
Was it
originally
because you were
thought.
kind of locked into an itinerary and a partner?
Yeah. I feel like I didn't explore. Excuse you. Are we done? Yeah. I didn't get that real feeling of culture, perhaps because of Europe isn't that different to here, or it didn't feel as shocking as here.
And you got a pretty touristy place.
Going to touristy places with a partner, it wasn't social. It was all quite luxe, which is gorgeous and such a privilege, but doing the proper travel, I think I hadn't done. So I definitely want to do more of that. Southeast Asia, for sure. I'm trying to convince my friend Flynn in WA, who's got a 4-wheel drive. We will hopefully do the South Coast together maybe early next year.
Yeah.
And then Ella and I are thinking in about a year's time or a little bit under, going to Kyrgyzstan and Mongolia and riding horses.
That's footsteps.
Yes, I didn't know. It was Ella's idea. It wasn't on my radar.
It's such a shame for Ted because he's such a rogue character and he's gone to this place that's suddenly, like in the last year, become the most basic travel place ever.
But he's not how he's doing it.
Not how he's doing it, to be fair, but yeah.
And I wouldn't say it's the most basic ever. I think maybe amongst your breed, perhaps. But Ella wants to ride horses for a week through the mountains. Her brother just did it, and now I'm.
Sounds pretty decent. Yeah.
Our asses are going to be hurting.
Oh, yeah.
I've got a year to relearn how to ride a horse.
So more travel then?
Yes.
And the second?
The second, glad you remember. For my job, it's somewhat flexible where I can kind of be in different areas. They just had a meeting last week, or yesterday even, about trying to get more people in the office for longer, so that might impact it slightly. But I'm thinking of dog sitting my way around Australia and just setting myself up in different areas, getting out of the Northern Beaches bubble, learning who I am outside of my immediate. I've grown up here. I've never left. My parents have always been 20 minutes away if I need them. Same with close friends. So having that distance will be cool.
Yeah. Do you see... What was the actual question I have in my head? Is it more of a pursuit of, who am I outside of this bubble? Or is it, I really want to understand the world and the people in it? I'm sure it's a bit of both, but is there one that's stronger than the other?
I think it's more, I have the opportunity, I have no responsibilities, so just do something. And I love the people that I'm working with. I have a great opportunity to develop skill, probably too much of an opportunity that I wouldn't get somewhere else. So would enjoy making the most of that. And while I can do that in the corporate world, also just go.
Leverage the corporate world to kind of not just fund, but facilitate that travel and experience.
And I think slower travel is much more appealing to me. And our country is so big and I have seen barely any of it, that before I go off and see so much more of the world.
Having grown up here, having lived 24 years here, so even in adulthood having base, I guess, do you foresee the costs, the hidden costs of living out? Obviously, you're seeing the benefits. You're seeing the benefits of, okay, I understand who I am, and I can really spend time in other parts of the world, and I'm totally projecting my own fact that I've done what you're saying you want to do. And there are so many costs of cutting ties with people and connection with not just the land and the society and people in your bubble and whatnot. To come back to that is not just, oh, you weren't there for this and this and this, but it's like, I'm different as well because I go out and find myself. I therefore operate in this bubble very, very differently. If you've got the bug, if you've got that idea, I don't think it cannot be watered and grown to its full potential. But are there any hesitations or fears or anxieties around that fact?
I think I already feel a little bit of that now, coming back from this trip, of the, something's different, or I feel different outside of the bubble.
It's harder to operate in the bubble, at least in the same way I was before. 100%. I almost have to go full circle, go so hard at the travel that I'm sick of it to a certain degree. Or I stay there and I find some answer for myself there. Or if I am going to come back to this particular bubble, it's because I'm choosing to come back. But there's no real middle ground anymore, I don't think.
I think comparing the two of us, knowing both of us quite well, I'm much more adaptable and can be happy in different environments. So I'm less concerned about going, oh my God, I can't be here. But I'm also open to if that's what I come to, okay, so then just don't be here. Not
to narrow yourself into some ideal of the future, but if you're a betting woman, 100 chips, and it's like, 30 out of the 100 chips on the fact that Sophie's going to go around Australia for a year, let's say, and then come back to Northern Beaches and kind of continue in this business or whatever. 20 that she'll meet some dude who's from wherever, Vietnam, Belgium, bloody Kyrgyzstan, and kind of chase him and, as you say, build a happy life. She's content. Where are you putting these chips of what takes you where and what forces, whether they be partners or friends or work opportunities or just I love the place?
I'm going to be really annoying.
But you're betting with what you know of Sophie. You're not saying, I think I'm going to do this or I want this. You just, if I were a betting woman.
I think that was one of the biggest lessons that I learned late last year. I was this is what my future will look like. And I learned you can't do that. So
you're not saying that future.
I know. I'm reluctant to even think of what I want it to be because I have no idea. I would not be surprised at all if on my journeys, I fall in love, because I think I fell in love with 40 people in Vietnam alone. I also have a brilliant life here, lots of people here. It's completely open. So betting woman, I would go even in everything, because there's nothing that
Are there
feels
any
more
things
likely.
that you close yourself to?
Do you have an example?
Are you closed to? I don't have an interesting enough.
I don't think so, and I'd like to think that in general I'm a very open person. For example, I'm a fussy eater, but I'll still try everything. Even if I am very confident that I won't enjoy it, I'll still give it a crack. I think that's with most things. As long as I see the risk-reward balance, I'm much more comfortable taking less risk and missing out on something if I don't see its reward.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna ask you a question that I've been playing around with for a long time, for a few weeks now. It's this frame of individuals versus, like, the individual force versus the community, like the draw towards these things. Because I think we often operate on that scale of, are my actions, this is the way I'm living my life, in service of kind of me as an individual, or a community, i.e. family, friends, society, social networks. So in my own life, for instance, I think the last few years I was very much serving and living out my individual path and desires, and, you know, going overseas and
The dad law.
yeah, dad law and making dad law and passion and whatnot, and all these trips and blah, blah, blah. Having explored that individuality in whatever way I have, I really feel this huge draw to the pendulum swing. I'm just absolutely feeling it with every bone in my body to be community minded and build a life somewhere in a place that's kind of just, I'm a normal person. And I mean, what's a more community serving job and normal job than, you know, paramedic? So it's, and I kind of recognize that it's a pendulum swing. So just as I went extreme that end, I'm probably going quite extreme this end, and it'll naturally balance out. Looking at you from the outside, you've probably in your own ways been pretty bloody community for all this time. And maybe Vietnam was like a one from, you know, me, Mr. Individualism over here, pushing you maybe to explore this side. Are you trying to manage that pendulum swing so you don't go extreme, or what other things are exploring that individuality, if not just the travels? Is it, I guess it is what you just said, you're like kind of letting go of the fact you're in the beaches and your family and friends. I guess my question therefore is, just as I can see the patterns and kind of assume that when it balances out, there'll be a mix of this travel and individualism and like family community, and like probably be, you know, running some, like starting some business that links them all up. Can you at least see some middle ground based on these two extremes that you've already started to play with? Is that too abstract?
No, I find it really funny that you bring it up, because I was reflecting on this the other day that I don't think it's a negative thing at all. But upon my reflection, I was thinking, I feel very selfish as a human being since you came into my life, which I think has come with a lot of pros and was too much the community do everything for everyone else. But I'm very aware suddenly that, am I still doing enough for other people? That's something that's very important to me and just in my personality. However, I think Vietnam as an example, and that hostile cult leader, I can be selfish in that I love the social aspect and that's what I want to do, and it still benefits.
It serves
others.
those 40 ourselves. And that's the ultimate ikigai balance. The goal.
I've won. I've done it.
Yeah. Being the most selfless person. Like, I want to be this and I want to absolutely destroy this and get super rich or whatever from it. But by doing so, if it's correctly aligned, because I'm a good person, I'm not going to be getting super rich off, taking minerals out of the ground or whatever, bullshit you're doing, right? It's probably going to be something good, like being a cult leader or events manager, socialite, or whatever you're doing. So it's probably going to be good. I'm going to be selfishly really good at it. And by nature of me being really good at it and wanting to selfishly get rich from it, that means I'm adding value to people because no other way to get money. So
it is something with the promotion I spoke to Mum about too, because I'm very close with her. It's not an industry that I love, and I don't think it has the best. My moral compass is challenged a little bit with the industry I'm working in alcohol. But as my mum said, just do the good things somewhere else outside of work. So I think, like you, I'll try volunteering more and scratching that itch outside of the workplace as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because there's no right answers of
I wish there was.
Yeah, how to maintain how to be the most moral, ethical, good person, but useful and economically beneficial and all of the above. How do we do that? Well, one person says run the corporate race, don't care what you're doing inside that and make up for it outside of it. One person says don't touch anything, just be kind of a hippie, not touching anything, and everything in between the two. So
there is no right answer.
No. Okay, and to stem from that, your natural state perhaps of community mindedness, I think that also ties into not wanting to rock the boat, serving the community, being maybe a bit softly spoken and not having these, again, if I'm the opposite, the white guy with the podcast, right?
I'm glad you're aware of it.
And the individualism is obviously wrapped up in such a crazy concept, such a unique, no. Is that I feel in my own experience that that's a common through line with a lot of, as I said at the start, young girls, young women, are far more community minded in general in the way they live their life in general.
Sort of the maternal.
Sure, for whatever reasons. How then do you think? What kind of place in this world do you think 24-year-old women hold, and how do you interact with the world? What challenges are involved? How do you see your voice being listened to or respected, or vice versa? Where does your mind first go when I start asking those kind of questions?
I found it interesting. I'm not sure if you were describing me when you said softly spoken, because that is not what I'd describe myself as.
But not overly opinionated, I think is fair to say.
Really?
I would say so. Not overtly. I mean, the fact that okay, so this is what I run it off. This podcast, for instance, behind the scenes now, this will be the 50th episode to release, but we've recorded, I think, 4 more than that.
Yeah.
So there's already 3 or 4 that, and one I actually lost, my bad. Sorry forever, Moon. But a few of them haven't been released. Most of those have been girls. And then if we've released, like if we've recorded 55 or whatever, then I probably asked maybe, let's say 100 people. And out of that 45 that have said no or kind of just lulled about, I reckon majority of those have been girls. So the quota when you see the edit, like the published episodes, is just like shockingly male dominant. And it's definitely not 50-50 from the first filter of who do I want on the pod? Like, it's still not 50-50 at all.
Yes.
Maybe 70-30, but then it looks like 90-10 at the end. And I've just noticed that pattern, and I'm sure that's plenty to do with me and
you repulse women in general.
Repulse women, exactly. But
yeah,
I think there's a significant factor of just the natural state of on the bell curves, it's far more closed to opening yourself and sharing yourself, especially in the public forum, opening up judgment and I was talking about this actually today. Most of the clips I post on Instagram are just me actively listening, and because I'm trying to promote the guests and whatnot. In the pod, I talk heaps, but on the Instagram, it's very rarely me kind of putting myself out there to be judged. And I was about to post a clip, the longer one, where for half of it at least, I was properly speaking. And I was so anxious and nervous about it, especially compared to the other ones. I didn't end up because it was just a bit of a weird, contentious issue, and I thought it's definitely going to get perceived the wrong way. But I guess I'm letting my guests have to cop that, and they're kind of obviously up for it by nature of saying yes. But again, way less girls are up for it.
Yeah. 2 points. One, very quickly, it's very interesting, the dynamic. Most people would say that I lead the conversations and I don't shut up. But I've said to you all along with our relationship, our friendship, that I feel much more content being silent and letting you talk. So I'm trying not to do that so much today, because otherwise you'll look back at it and be like, why am I talking the whole freaking time? The second...
Thank you.
You're welcome. I don't know if I'm doing a great job. But I think women are... It sounds so cringe.
Because, yeah, by nature of you being up for this, you are not the average woman we're talking about, but you have far more of it than I might, and
For sure.
you'll bear witness to it from an insider perspective.
Without sounding, I hope it doesn't come across as complaining or anything, I think it's a very real idea that we get told to shush or just talk amongst the girls. And there's a saying that I wish I remembered the words of, and if you could just voice over edit them so I say it correctly, that men, their battles or their challenges are normally very external and people see it and they're like, look what I did. Whereas girls' hardships or females' hardships are usually much more silent and you're just meant to cop it. I'm not sure if you agree with that, but say men go to war or men fight the lion or whatever version of that. I think we might have discussed it before, whereas ours are very keep to yourself and we don't want to hear you complain. Oh, and it's like bitchy versus or bossy rather than a hustler.
Do you think that we don't want you to complain voice is that of women or men or just societal, all of the above?
I am very excited to learn my own perspectives of that when I learn more about the world, because you look at different cultures and women and men have very different roles depending on where you go. So I wonder if it's stemmed from thousands of years of history. I don't know. I'd love to say right now it's patriarchy or whatever. I think a lot of us women are our own worst enemy, and we might hear it or see it in a movie or read it in a book because that's the way that it's been done, however long it has been.
Yeah.
So we just think that's what we're meant to do, when in reality, it doesn't matter.
I guess there's probably the concept of there's so many social mores and ways we operate that we're never in a rule book. Maybe there's some autistic YouTube videos about it, but spelling it out, the algorithms of these social ways. But so much of it is just these subconscious ideals that are placed in front of us. No one tells you, again, nowadays you can find it. No one tells you what the hero's journey is, but you might see it played out in every single fairy tale, every single story, every single movie you've ever seen for the guy, for instance, and just inherently know that that's it. Now, is that cultural? Is that biological? That's kind of impossible. If it's been going for 5,000 years, well, if it is cultural, at what point does culture become biology almost?
I do think, I don't know why this has come to mind, but the there is a massive, from very little, an undeniable massive message sent to us that the way that we look is far more important than the way that you look as women. That's whether it's a biological, we need to attract men early so that we can reproduce, or if it is cultural, who knows. But we have made it worse, I think, for ourselves. The club that I went to, that I wanted to take you and Xavier to, with the sort of Afrobeats, I went there unexpectedly. So I think I had mascara, no other makeup. My hair was not washed. I was wearing jeans and a random top. I was not looking my cutest. Nor is my cutest ever girl level cute. And there were some beautiful women, and the way they're dancing is very like, keep to yourself, look sexy, look good. I was dancing like a maniac, as per usual. And it wasn't to seek attention, but it received some. All of it was very positive. And everyone was still, all the other girls were afraid to do what I was doing because, what are they? I don't know what thoughts are running through their head. But it's so fascinating. I have repeated evidence that there's nothing wrong with that. And people, while traveling as well, men and women were saying, I wish I could be like you, sober. Like, I need to drink to be like that. Like, why? Why do we? What is it that makes us think we need to dance pretty or be small or be quiet?
Well, I suppose it's, if I were to try to answer you, it's the fear of acceptance and what.
But then why do we want acceptance by people that, like you with your filters? Why don't we all carry that a little bit into, if someone's not going to like me, being harmless and just dancing and having a good time?
Well, because the extreme of that, if it doesn't work out, like I can have all the filters in the world, but you filter out too much and you're left with nothing. Like the ultimate filter is a bowl. Nothing gets through the bowl. It's the ultimate filter. The game is, I want to filter out everything that's not exactly what's really good for me and meant for me. But can you imagine creating such a filter? I mean, that just engineering that, whether it's literal material filters we're talking about or social filters for ourselves, for friends, for partners, for just people in the street. That's not impossible.
I do find it interesting, though. I get what you're saying, but for example, with drinking, people drink so that, in some circumstances, so that they can loosen up and dance. So if that's what they want to achieve anyway, what's stopping them from being like that? It's the same person, you're with the same people. Yes, you can blame it on the alcohol, but if you're wanting...
Well, I think that's exactly right, though.
They want something to blame it on?
Yeah. It's very uncomfortable to take responsibility, right? Yeah. If the best way, I think, to go about dancing or dating is complete raw, this is me, this, take it or leave it kind of, and not in a rude way, not in a hostile way of take it or leave it, just I'm going to show up as myself and we can dance or we can hang out for as long as that's good, and if you choose that, great, and if you don't, okay, also great, because again, you just filtered yourself out, and I can probably use that information to better engineer my filters. But in doing that, if you're, at the end of the day, you filter this person out, you filtered, this person didn't choose me, I chose this and that, and you're on your own one night and you're feeling a bit down, you may be a bit sick and stuff, why am I on my own? What's wrong with me? And you know that you are yourself. So there is something wrong with me, at least for the people that I've come into contact with so far, right? For them, there was something wrong with me. That's kind of brutal. I think still worth it because it won't be like that forever. But I completely get why people would, in a sense, subconsciously loosen themselves up a bit and kind of okay, if I show up as this very pretty girl, and that might be a very loose filter, so more people choose that. And the way they choose is probably not great. And they're not even choosing me, they're choosing this facade. But, oh, look, I'm not alone tonight.
Back to, oh my God, I went traveling. Did you know I went to Vietnam? But I was thinking about it before you came over. Why was I connecting with people so differently? Why do you have this rush? Part of it's traveling and meeting other people. You automatically have something in common, which you bond over, or similar interests. Yes. But I think I at least try to, and I hope you can agree with my self-reflection, pretty much me. You get, this is so.
Sophie is one of the least filtered, no game people.
Yeah, you said that I have negative game.
Negative game, if anything. Which for the right person is going to be positive game.
Yeah.
Right people.
I think when you're traveling, lots of people have the mindset or something to blame or take off that responsibility or accountability, whatever word you used before, because they're never going to see you again. So they're much more comfortable to be themselves.
Yes.
Because they're like, well, they don't have anything to lose.
If they reject the real me, I'm not going to see them for the next 7 years at school or at the local pub or whatever.
Yeah.
And know that they rejected the real me.
Yeah.
I'm literally never going to see them again. But even in your little hostel example, when you rock up in the 4 dorm rooms, all those people, by nature of having their quote half open, and you can see the evidence that this was true because they sprung straight up into socializing. None of them wanted to be the one to face the rejection of maybe these people don't want to. In a microcosm, because if there was a super, super attractive person, guy or girl, that said, do you guys want to have dinner? Almost everyone in the world is going to say yes. If Brad Pitt walks in, everyone's going to say yes. On like one extreme scale. Yet if it's the lower you go, the more chance people are going to kind of say, oh, no, I'm busy. Or, that's just.
Is that where you fall?
Exactly. That's the way it works, right? So on some level, they were guarding themselves from the rejection involved in going out there, and they could use, oh, my curtain was closed and I was on my phone. That in itself is, I would hazard a guess that most of those people weren't doing productive stuff that they needed to have done at that time. It wasn't like a Zoom call in that moment. Probably scrolling YouTube, the classics. Maybe that is of our time the biggest. If I'm on my phone on the train or something, I don't have to get micro rejected by that person striking up a chat or even that eye contact with that person, or even just reading a book instead, but noticing how fucking illiterate I am and how bad my attention span is.
Yeah. That's a crazy
hands up
point.
as guilty.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I really like the fact that I absolutely get swept up in that for sure. But I do think that that is a strength of mine, where you're comfortable to just be. And I think that's lacking massively in our society. I can sit on a bus, no headphones. Maybe 5% of the time I will have headphones, and I've got a 1.5 hour commute most days.
So what are you opening yourself up to? You're just watching?
Conversation, learning. I enjoy observing, but I've met so many people on buses. For example, my Christmas Eve lunch was...
What was that again?
I was coming home. I had a boat party or something else. We went to a bar and then a club, and just with friends, didn't meet anyone there. And then some guy on the way home kicked my foot accidentally because I had my legs tucked and he was behind and kicked them forward. And I turned around and I didn't have anything to do, so I just sparked up a conversation. And then they said, why don't you join us for Christmas Eve lunch? And they had oysters and prawns and cocktails and tiramisu. It was fantastic. And that was just because I wasn't trying to hide.
How good. Now, when guy, I would say I might be a good example of when guys do this, and are open to the world and kind of, in a sense, flirt with the world. I always like to say flirt with the world, which is, might have negative connotations, or,
No,
but that's exactly what I think you're saying, is kind of just be open to every opportunity, kind of see the best and go for it. And you get so rewarded for that. I mean, the amount of food I get at the cafes, and just stupid little things that you can't quantify very well, but it's just so clear to me that that is completely worth it.
I think our friendship is a great example of that.
Yeah.
And not sure if you remember it the same, but I was dancing with a girlfriend. We met salsa dancing, dancing with a friend of mine. You approached us standing with another guy that we assumed was your friend, asked us to dance. Phoebe runs away because her friend arrived at the same time, and you kind of walked along. So you had the guts or whatever to approach and engage with someone new. And especially gorgeous females, come on, like Phoebe. And about a minute later, I then came back to you. And because those two were dancing and they're more socially afraid, I was like, hey, shall we still dance? So it was both of us being not afraid to engage in.
Okay, so this is where I was trying to get to this, though, and skew this, is that's quite, in my head at least, clearly a good thing, to take those social risks. Now, like any risk, there's plenty of upside, which we're trying to explore, but there's also downside. You go out hitchhiking the outback from Darwin to Sydney, there's heaps of upside, great stories and whatnot, but...
Oh, did you do that or something?
Yeah, quite clearly significant potential for downsides.
Yeah.
Yet as a 24-year-old dude, I kind of feel okay with those down. They don't feel that down for me, right? I think every girl very viscerally feels like, no, those downsides are real fucking deep and down.
Yeah.
I guess, like, how have you gone through the world? Like, the other 24-year-old girls who are maybe more scared and more, do you think they're just conditioned to have that, like, be looking at that downside and that risk? Because most girls will say to me, oh, that's great, but you're a guy, like, I couldn't do that. Then I meet some Sophies and plenty of other Sophies on the road that are hitchhiking around South America on their own. I'm like, so it's not everyone bought into that idea, but have they just listened to that? Have they had personal experience? What's the go?
Where are you trying to take this conversation?
Open-ended. You can go wherever you want with
it. As you know, it is a challenge. There's the physically, I'm not as strong as you.
Yeah.
You're huge, bro. Do you even go to the gym? Do you even bench? I don't know. I think there's the biological differences and behavior. If you look at the statistics, it's not in our favor. And I have a battle of having had bad experiences where I'm supposed to be safe. So there's it happens anyway. So go explore the world. Don't hide from, you could, potentially be kidnapped or be a victim of sexual assault. But also, if that happens where you are safe, how bad is it where you're not? That was really poorly articulated.
Wait, so you're saying that you yourself have had an experience, bad things happened where you're supposed to be safe. There's two competing intention logic trains to go down. There's one, well, if it happened where I was safe, I mean, it can happen anywhere. So you might as well that's already factored out of the equation in a sense. So let's just run it as if it weren't there, because it's there in every step. So you can't avoid it.
Yeah. I think for more context, it sounds so dramatic, but it was kind of true. 2 almost kidnappings, one when I was 12, one when I was 16, both walking by myself. One was to my house from work when I was 12, and I knew where I was. I knew I was in a familiar location both times, so was able to navigate that situation and get out of it by running home or running into a stranger's house.
What is kidnapping? Do you talk about that stuff? I don't know. But
Yeah, I can.
what even is an attempted kidnap?
So
I've got some candy in the van.
the first, when I was 12 and walking home, this guy, that might have been in my head, but in my area, there had been reports of kidnapping attempts from a guy in a white van, and you hear about it, but don't think it'll ever happen.
Surely he'd be more original than being a dude in a white van.
Come on. But I was walking home and this guy was going at my pace on the main road. There were no other cars, and put down his window and was staring at me. I still remember his eyes like popping out of his head and was licking his lips. And I don't know if it was just trying to make me uncomfortable or what, but a car came behind him, so he drove off. And I remember going, holy shit, I've got less than a kilometre to walk home, maybe 500 metres at this point. And I was terrified, but he drove off and it was okay. And then he came back and did the same thing. And where I live is quite a quiet suburb.
Within the next 500 metres?
Mm-hmm, yeah. So he went around the block, found me again, and was going at a crawling pace. And then I just ran home and he followed me home. I called my dad on the way and he came outside, and as soon as my dad grabbed me, he drove off. So that might have been nothing, but it was something was off there. The other time...
Did you ever see that van or that guy again?
No.
Just before you say the second story, the one thing I remember hearing about kidnapping, and especially young child sexual assault, this might be completely false, but often there's kind of targets. Obviously, he would have known where you live and stuff, so you could have seen him again quite clearly. Yep. But apparently they target the one trend they found is weak fathers.
So maybe my dad coming on the...
Yeah, I reckon wrapped up in not just the logistics of, fuck, I'm going to get beaten up and chased and, the Liam Neeson on me, but also I think psychologically the kids who don't have that strong overlook are probably maybe that the factor as well.
Targets.
So really interesting that even though he knew where you lived from that point onwards, you didn't see him again.
Yeah.
But the dad
thankfully.
Knew out.
So, I mean, it might have been nothing, but turned down my street,
it doesn't sound nothing.
Yeah. And he was definitely intending to make me uncomfortable. Yeah. That I have no doubt about. And as a 12-year-old child, you're a great man. There's question marks. The second one, which is a little scarier, I was in, not where I live, I was at a friend's house, and I needed to go for a walk and get out of the environment that I was in at the time. I was walking by myself. I was a bit of an idiot and didn't have my phone or anything on me. It was summertime, so I was wearing a little top and skirt, and you could see that I had no bag, no phone, no anything. So walking down a street right before it became sort of bushland, and another guy in a van. It was a silver van this time.
Oh, really?
I was 16. I might have been a little bit drunk as well, because that was the window of time where Sophie drank alcohol. Maybe contributes to why I don't. But this guy came screaming up in a van, pulled over to the left. I was walking on the right-hand side of the road, and van was still running. Opened the door, chucked it in park, opened the door, and starts sprinting at me. And
So he's like 20 metres away?
Yeah. I was just on the side of the road. I saw him pull over. I was already on alert at this point and he had the window down and he was watching me so I could see that, and started to go, what the hell's going on? Assess my environment and noticed that one of the houses that I was walking near had a TV on and it was a kids show. And I just made the call, and I'm so grateful that I did. When he opened the door and started coming at me, I just ran into this person's house. Their door was unlocked.
Wow.
So I just walked in and it was this mum, dad and a kid. Like, I'm so sorry, I'm being chased, whatever. And turn around. Obviously they were shocked and not quite sure how to react, but I wasn't particularly intimidating as a 16-year-old girl. This is maybe 7:00 on a Saturday evening in the summer, so it was still light. And from the time that I was in the house, the guy sprinted back and drove away. So he didn't get the plates, but reported it to the cop. And it's, again, nothing actually happened, but had that door been locked, had no one been home, what would have? Like, what could he have been wanting? I doubt it would have been coffee.
Yeah, that's actually fucked. I think you told me that, but I forgot that, and that's crazy.
So the battle of, I think the reason that nothing happened in those scenarios because I was familiar with the area, and I'm really fortunate that when I ran into a house, it's a nice family that called the cops and offered to drop me back to where I was and needing support. If I was somewhere foreign, I could have walked into a more dangerous environment by doing that.
Walk me through the internal processes that have occurred from 12, 16, it's only been 8 years, let's say, to now be, yes, uncomfortable, and you're open about that, but thrive in foreign countries. And as you say, if that had happened somewhere in the Hajiong Loop or whatever, then you're well aware of the downsides of the risks of just putting yourself out there and flirting with the world, yet the upsides outweigh them, or you're better equipped to deal with the downsides. What do you think other girls, how did they calculate it differently to you? What could they maybe learn from you?
I think Vietnam, which is part of its choosing, is extremely safe. And I spoke to a lot of girls over there that we felt safer there than we do at home. And Australia is incredible. It is such a great place. But we noticed so much, all of us individually noticed, we weren't being looked at, we weren't being catcalled, we were, like, I was dressed like a rat, yes, but it just, Ella walked home from the club by herself without a single worry. And there's very few countries that we would still do that. So I don't think it's a great example of me really branching out and flirting. It's unfamiliar, yes, but I'd be very interested.
But even in the hostel, I mean,
yeah,
hostels can be great, but also they can be some of the seediest places on earth.
And I was in mixed dorm for all of them.
Yeah.
And since meeting you, I think we've talked a lot about one of my growth points is becoming less afraid of men in general. And maybe I'll do that too much and I'll learn the lesson the hard way. But so far in the past 12 months since being single, which was the sort of catalyst of, oh shit, I need to learn how to not be afraid of men, not for a relationship point of, or getting into another relationship point of view, but when you don't have your guy, the world is very different. So that has proven so far to be an incredible journey, and I've pretty much only had positive experiences with guys, but still trusting my intuition. If I feel something's off, I just go. I just leave it, and I'm not afraid of that.
You don't say, oh, but I should be giving.
Yeah.
If you just say talking to a guy at a bar, but he hasn't done anything obviously wrong, so why am I judging this? And it's not a reflection of him. You just trust it.
Yeah, and I think
that seems like a crucial,
for sure,
part of it.
Part of that was a therapist gave me that advice. I was like, I had this feeling with this guy. He walked over. He was friends with my friends. I hadn't met him yet, and my blood ran cold. It's so dramatic, but I had a reaction of, whoa, no.
Yeah.
And didn't say hi to him, just didn't engage. No, this is 8 months ago in Curly, where we are now, when I...
Oh, that's so weird.
It was so strange.
Yeah.
And later on, one of my best friends messaged me and said, oh, you were with this person, because he'd put a photo up and I was in the background. And I said, oh, yeah. She said, that's the guy that sexually assaulted me, which is just crazy. And who knows, but I had no idea that was connected. And my intuition said, something's off here. So didn't engage and find that out after. I spoke to my therapist about it and she said women are incredible at
Girls are
this.
so much more intuitive than guys. And I don't
But we get trained to ignore it.
I think. Well, what I'm thinking is you might get trained to ignore it, especially if you're trying to logicize your way back into not all men are terrible. But so you're using logic to forgive men, but you also have to then ignore the logic to basically judge your execution, at least in the social interaction with certain men as well. So it must be weird to flip between those two, which are kind of contradicting each other. But what I'm getting at is that for so many things, girls seem to be way more and women seem to be way more intuitive. Yet I wonder if that's how they come out, more intuitive and more tuned in, or because, again, the risks are so much feet further down and they don't have, at least physically, as many ways to combat that. A guy might not need to be as intuitive because he can just punch his way out of it to a certain degree. But a girl needs to have honed that skill. But survival, I wonder how they start.
Instinct.
Yeah.
Or survival of the fittest.
I wonder if you have a really weak man for whatever reason, if he's as intuitive as a woman or if it's like a...
Not that I've come across.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'd be interested. I suspect there is an element of the biological... We create the baby, we feed the baby. That is, however you want to argue, what biologically we are designed to do, so that awareness to protect or keep this thing alive is ingrained in us. And that might not be physical. So you have to know what baby wants. I'm not making great sense, but I think it's wired in us.
It makes sense. And you mentioned therapy to learn how to trust men again. Is that...
Combination. It started because when I came back from Europe, because I was in Europe, meant to be 3 months, got sick at about a month in, and was sick for 6 weeks, losing lots of weight, having massive panic attacks and all sorts. So called it early. And then for the next 4 weeks at home, so 10 total, I still could barely leave my house. I was just freaking out that I was going to be unwell again or whatever. So partially to help with or work out what the hell was going on there. And then to deal with trauma of sexual assault.
Okay. What, maybe specifically the sexual assault stuff, because we're on that topic.
Yeah.
What lessons or exercises or thought patterns can you, for people who can't afford therapy or don't want to go, are there any things that stand out as real value, moving the needle action items?
Unfortunately, the type that I did is a very specific technique where I'm holding buzzers and going through memories and it's processing it. So it's less her giving advice. So I don't have one-liners that I can necessarily
But
add.
even what's gone on in your psyche, are you to any degree aware of any processes that have happened?
I think some things are just because it's happened before doesn't mean that it's going to happen again. I'm not going to be 16, 17-year-old me in that situation again. So learning, yes, bad things will probably happen in life, but it's not going to be the exact same. So why be afraid of that? Yes.
Would it be fair to say, do you think that, let's say that 8 years from 8 to 16, 8 years before you were 16, you had no reason to be preparing yourself for such an experience? So it was just thrown onto you in a sense to this completely ignorant, innocent, unprepared 16-year-old. Now, the last 8 years since then, to make you 24, have been, at least in some sense, coloured by that being on the cards. In small ways, you will have been at least not ignorant, at least not innocent of that fact, and then maybe to whatever degree, whatever scale, prepared. Is that the way you're saying it? Can we say that for other things as well? I'm thinking this is completely not applying the same depth of scale to sexual assault and kidnapping and whatnot. But I remember being so pissed off that when COVID happened and shut down my world, so to speak, and everyone else's, like, because some people had better life situations to deal with it. If you have your own family and you might have a means to access nature and the things you care about and the people you care about, it's not going to affect you as badly as how it did me, personally. I just remember being deeply resentful of the fact that I didn't feel I got the opportunity to prepare myself for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then years later, when, not because of COVID, because of political lockdowns, but similar feeling lockdowns happened in Guatemala, and the world felt like, again, that it was closed off and my world's closed. I was like, hell yeah. The last 3 years or 2 years or whatever, in subtle ways, not I'm thinking I'm preparing for the next COVID, but I just lived my life with the context of things like COVID are on the cards.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, that has coloured the life I build for myself. And now that something like COVID feeling like again has actualized, I'm in a way better position. I'm in a place doing a thing with people I'm happy with. Does that have any relevance and parallels with what you're saying? And could that be taken with other people? Like, okay, I had this really bad experience that is clearly coloured. I don't have to make it take over, but I'll be better next time.
Somewhat yes, somewhat no. So I'm not sure how much I've told you, or we won't get too deep into it, but you could say that the bad stuff started when I was 14, and I am a reasonably intelligent, educated woman with great networks and supports and safety, all that. I have everything. So everything's in my favour. I know what's right and wrong, but I still got sucked into a pretty abusive relationship, and there was, even the first time I had sex was, I distinctly remember being like, no, and then it happened anyway. So it's not like I wasn't prepared for it. A few years later, I knew it was wrong. The psychology of a domestic violence relationship is very interesting, and being removed from it, you're like, oh my God, what was I doing? Why? I don't know. I still think back to younger Sophie and go, you know that's not okay, and you always did know.
What's misunderstood about? Because very few, I would say everyone has first degree contact with it. Mm-hmm. Knows someone, knows sister, friends,
sure.
Whatever. But at least half the population, I mean, it can happen the other way, but at least half the population in this context has no first person understanding. So for them and for other women who just haven't copped it, like, what's misunderstood most?
I'm sure there's a psychological person on YouTube or in real life that could explain this better, but I think you usually fall into the trap of someone very charming and you love this side of them and you're able to ignore the other stuff. We all do it, where you're like, oh, but I really like this part. So like, we'll just brush that to the side.
And if that's the fact that they, leave their toothpaste out or whatever, that's okay. That's kind of how shit works. But
and for some people, it might be, oh, they cheated, but I love everything out. Like, the 95% of the time, that's not what it's like. So it's worth that 5%. And I think these things happen gradually, like is it a lobster in water or a frog in water? They get in when it's cold, they don't realise that it's boiling and then they die. I think it's similar to that, where if that stuff happens straight away, I'd be like, oh, hell no. What do you think I am? But it happens gradually when you are building all these other things. You don't realise the water's boiling. And
then one day you're dead.
Yeah. Thankfully for me, not the case, but I still didn't even realize the time that it was at its worst, like the real bad night. It was halfway through another relationship of mine, so a year and a half later, where the person I was with tried to push the limits a little bit and did nowhere near the same stuff, but I snapped because I was like, I told you no, and suddenly had this flood of, oh, that's what
So you didn't
happened.
know it had happened?
No. I'd
It was
known.
like hiding there in your trauma closeted away subconscious.
Yeah. And then it came back so vividly, and I'd known that it had happened, but yeah.
I'm saying this not to be that voice.
It's a safe space.
Is there risk of that being like a dream or some other subconscious things?
That it gets complex. You might not remember the details 100% correctly, which is why the legal system, it's so hard, because they might go, oh, there was a red sock over there, and in the evidence of the crime scene they realised that the sock was white, and they're like, oh, well, you can't be trusted. So there's definitely that, and the human brain, in my very limited knowledge of it, blacks out traumatic events. People pass out when they're in a lot of pain, or when things happen.
Makes sense biologically too.
Exactly. Yeah. Your body goes, we can't handle this, so we're just gonna stop that. We don't. There's no benefit to you reliving that and being able to have that in your thoughts. So yes, it is true, and that makes it that we might not remember it 100% accurately, which makes it challenging.
It's kind of, I guess, help if we're talking about back on the savannah, that helps you, because I mean, I'm just gonna have to live with these things, and if that's happening, okay, like better I don't think about it. But now that we have this abstracted out, very intense and systematic and due process legal system, it'd be great if you had a photographic memory of those things in that sense. But then again, for your personal life, probably not.
Yeah. I don't know if it's worth going into the legal system tangent.
What's your thoughts?
Yeah.
You must have. Okay, if you're going to get opinionated, I mean, this has got to be the place to do it.
Yes, you need to be on the blanket, sir. Excuse me. One moment. Ooh. Okay. There we go. Hello, mate. Well, I hope my toes aren't in. Are they in it? No. It's mixed feelings about this. So reached out to the domestic violence police officer, and moral of the story, he said, after explaining the circumstances, said, look, he said, she said, in these types of things, even if he had a bloody fist and you had a bloody face, trying to prove it is incredibly difficult, and they will absolutely rinse you in court if it even gets there, blah, 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 blah. And I said, okay, can it be marked on his name or something in case this is if this is a pattern, or like, how can I felt a very big, and that was one of the biggest things to let go of in my growth or whatever, responsibility for other women's safety, and felt that it was my job to make sure that he learned a lesson somehow and wouldn't repeat his behaviour. That's not on me. As much as I would still love to think that those things won't happen again, I have no control over that.
That's a big thing whenever this topic comes up. That's a big part of the conversation as well, of, okay, suddenly one person's let the cat out of the bag and now you have all these other women coming forward, and where were you back then? Like, you know, that's an interesting take that, well, I was the victim and he hurt me, and then I'm going to get hurt extra
Yeah.
by trying to be the good person, literally when I'm being down. Like,
yeah. Well, the cop who is the head of domestic violence in this area said, basically, it's not worth it. Do nothing. I'm like, okay, cool. And when I said, can it be noted down as something, he said, every case needs to be handled individually. So this isn't, that's just not worth it.
right.
So you either make a statement and actually do something about it, and the chances of anything happening are very slim. And did I want this person to go to prison? I don't know. That's a whole other challenge. There's someone, anyway. And then, yeah, being told that he could do it to 100 people individually, and you can't connect any of those. That's when it comes out afterwards of, oh, it's been reported 60 times in the crime documentaries. And you go, well, why didn't they pick that up? It's just how our legal system works. And I understand why it does, but it was very disheartening to...
Is any part of you like, why is it like this? Why is it protecting the criminals? Is that you could definitely see that the patriarchy lens, if it's all like, male centric, protecting them. But then on the flip side, you can say, well, especially in the celebrity space, the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case was a good example of, no, but our legal system, once they get going, is just rinsing these guys. I mean, do you take any stances?
No, I think I am wise enough to realize it is very hard to prove. And especially, this is a former relationship. If, I'm not the kind of person that hates their ex or whatever, but some people are. And if I had hurt feelings, I could make that up and send him away. And being able, that's just not something that you can
give
power. It's innocent until proven guilty. And if you don't have enough evidence to make them guilty, I understand it. The connection thing pissed me off. But again, you could say all of your friends, or it depends how strategic or vengeful people are.
Is it like going through all that therapy stuff, even saying this stuff here? God knows if anyone's watching at this stage.
I doubt it.
But is it, again, on that note of young women maybe not having that strong voice or being discouraged from really speaking out, is owning your story, especially if it's a bit of in some senses, an ugly one. It's not, I was the prom princess and then I got this and then I got that. It's like, I was kidnapped, I have to go through therapy, or along those lines. Is there any difficulty in that?
If I'm understanding correctly, are you saying, do I hold anything against bad things having happened to me?
I guess I'm still trying to harp on that question of why are women, especially young women, so prone to not having a loud public voice. And
I think one element to it, certainly not the only, but one element is still our safety. So and I'm not saying I'm hot shit by any means. I don't think that's a factor with this stuff. I'm approachable and bubbly and I'm affectionate. You could say that I might mislead people, but these are people that I'm not engaging with at all in some circumstances. I can kind of understand if people
you're massaging people's feet. You just met friends.
Okay, I don't want that on the internet. All right. But more often than not, if I was out having fun at a festival or in a club or something, one, I'm sober, so maybe it happens to everyone and they don't realize because they're drunk and it just is not high on their radar. But I'm always sober. More often than not, I'd say I'd be groped or there'd be something with people that
go on a night out. And,
So
girls that keep on saying this. I'm like, it's so hard, and I guess I'm trying to. This would be the ultimate play if you were groped, to be like, I don't get it, I don't understand it, right? So, I mean, maybe maybe it's all a ploy to cover, but it is very difficult to
navigate that scenario.
to just see how that is so prevalent.
Well,
do you reckon that because the question is, because it feels like when every girl I know says, oh yeah, if I go on a night out, I'll get groped. I'm like, it's when you say it like that and it's so widespread, it happens all the time, it sounds like, well, what, a significant proportion of the male population doing that, like 5-10%, like, but realistically, if you think about it,
it's
you could
probably the
have
same
one
guy doing it to everyone.
in a crowd of 1,000, and over the course of the night, he's done it to every single person.
For sure. It's certainly not all men. This is not a man-hating podcast, and I don't want that to, my friendship with you is so beautiful, and Xavier and Ted and so many other male friends that I have, and my brother and my father, like, there are so many incredible people, and it does get ruined by that, whatever percentage that is. Usually it is men doing the worst things, not always, but usually. But the point I was going on before is when those things happen, you have to assess, or at least where my brain goes is, if you call it out, what's going to happen? They might be embarrassed. Yes. Is that going to change their behavior? My brain then goes, the kind of guy that's going to put his hand up my skirt walking past me that I've never met is probably not the kind of guy that's going to treat me with respect if I call him out on it.
They dehumanized you already.
Yeah. And they're clearly not afraid to make me uncomfortable or potentially harm me. So coming home from a concert with Eleni and Manly a couple of years ago, and this is a Thursday night, I was wearing jeans, not that it matters what I was wearing, but certainly not anything provocative. I was wearing jeans and a t-shirt, and this 60-plus-year-old catcalled us, and we decided not to engage, and he just continued walking, didn't make eye contact. He then starts swearing, chased after us, and spat on me because he said, are you too good for me? So imagine had I been like, oi mate, you made me uncomfortable, he would have come swinging.
Maybe. Or maybe he would have been like, who knows?
Is it worth the risk for me to, like, that's not worth the chance. So same in if I get groped or whatever, if I'm with a bunch of guys. So in the most recent case, which thankfully it's been a little while, go men. I was with a colleague at the establishment, of course, and a man just grabbed my ass. I was talking to my male colleague across the table, and I said, that guy just groped me.
Yeah.
He's like, what? And we just switched positions so that my back was against a wall and he was in the thing, and that was great. So it's not going to happen again.
Yeah, I think what you were touching on as well was there's a really interesting point that was made, and it's so interesting that telling men, like, putting the narrative out there that men need to kind of be way more respectful and polite and not touch women and all this stuff of, like, you're doing too much, you're creepy, this and whatnot, the extremes of it being, you approach women in the street, it's creepy, or, whatever. The kind of men that need to tone it down and stop groping asses on bars and whatnot, as you say, aren't going to listen.
Yeah.
But the kind of men that are genuinely, have sisters, or not that excuses.
Good dudes, yeah.
Yeah, good dudes.
Most men.
Most men are going to listen to that, take that on board, and therefore be way less, like, who's approaching girls in the supermarket these days, or girls probably, I think most girls I know complain about the fact, and, I'm not doing my part, that's for sure, of, like, guys are just pussies. Because most guys probably had it on right, but because they had it on the finger on the pulse of the right level of aggression's the wrong term, but overt expressions of attraction and pursuit. If most guys had it, maybe back in the day it was 5-10%. Let's just throw out some hypothetical numbers. It went way over the line. Now to bring those 5-10% back, or wrangle them in. Well, they actually didn't get wrangled in because, again, they were never going to get wrangled in by anything you told them.
Yeah.
There's basically, jail is probably the only thing, castration or whatever, but you don't have to go into that. But you did wrangle down the mass of good men. That's an interesting point.
It is very interesting, but I do think there is such a clear way of how to approach. Just be respectful. And
so what do you do about those, whatever?
I think they're going to be useless either way. So say salsa dancing, which, we do a lot, and that's dancing with a bunch of strangers, men, because you dance with the opposite gender. There are a few where I'm like, oh, I don't love this, but it's all right. They've pretty much all approached in the same way, and you just pick up on energy. None of them are doing anything wrong other than, hey, can we dance? If they get too much, I thankfully have the guts to tell them and walk away. Random second tangent. I'm very aware of some of my friends that clearly have the be polite and do the right thing so deeply inbuilt into them that they won't walk away.
But a few other friends equally will be, every guy wants to touch your ass, so don't let anyone even, and probably be like, what are you doing?
Don't touch me. That's very, because I obviously have if they approach me, I just say, no, sorry, not interested. I'm very comfortable with that. And I know a lot of other girls aren't comfortable with that. So maybe that's not great advice. But I think if a guy comes up to you and says, hey, you caught my attention, whatever, can I get your Instagram? Or, can we have a chat later? And just allowing them to have space, or assuming they want space, is a safe bet.
Yeah.
Rather
the guy to assume the girl wants space. Yeah.
So my preference.
Well, that's always the play. It's like you say, kind of say something like, "Oh, I need to go. I need to meet a friend or whatever." Meet a friend's probably perfect because it's like, oh, he's not just some weird loner.
He's not some strange guy on a boat.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to rush, but 10 seconds, this and that. They can say no or yes to that. And built in from the start is the fact that if I say yes to this, you're not going to be clinging from day dot. I don't even know you.
Yeah. Whether it's if you're on a night out or something, you go, I was just getting a drink, but I wanted to say whatever. And then you can walk away, suss it out if you think it's worth re-engaging. I don't know. I think it's very easy to be respectful as long as you're willing to be rejected. And if you get rejected, handle it in a polite way rather than doing nothing at all.
Yeah, fair.
Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. I'm just trying to think how to wrap up. Are there other aspects of your life, your psyche, things that you think you're a very good representative of an average archetype, or things that you think you're some weird extreme out there off the charts thing that we haven't touched on yet?
I think just laugh as much as you can. Try find fun in, or positive in, the little things. If I were to give advice, I think that's something that I've become, one of the biggest insults of my life is also from you when we were walking in Darling Harbour and you said it's really nice to be around. It's really nice to be around unfunny people because I feel like the funniest guy on the planet. Just straight up said that I'm not funny. Anyway, I think I don't know where I was going with that, but walking through the airport security with Ella on the way back from Vietnam, there was music in the background, so I was just kind of dancing, as I do, and that's my happy thing. And she just laughed. I said, I think I'm having the best time here. He said, yes, only you would have fun in airport security line. But why not? We're all making a choice to not have fun in those moments.
Yeah.
To an extent.
That's such trite advice, but is actually livable.
And I'm a very realistic person, and you can read my emotions like a book. Probably better than a book, because your attention span is
not just me.
Yeah,
people in general.
Yeah. The world sucks sometimes. I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm tired, I'm whatever. But I do try to just go, you know what? That plant is really green and I like that. And I think your hair looks funny, so I'm going to laugh at it. It doesn't. I'm just running out of things to say. And laughing at myself regularly. You know that I'm extreme at that.
I wonder, because there's a quote somewhere that says you can't have both an easy life and a strong character. And it sounds like a lot of these things are reliant on your character in the core of it being pretty solid, pretty strong. I can laugh at myself because I know I'm an all right human, and I can take these social risks because I know I have solid friends and family and appreciation for myself even, and self-respect. And I'm sure on other pods it's like, oh yeah, you have to love yourself and self-respect yourself, and then you can, off that stable platform, extend further and start jumping off cliffs and taking risks. But go back to that quote, for that stability, for that strength of character, you do somewhat need a kind of difficulty in life, but it doesn't sound like, in some areas at least, you've been void of that. And again, you can have all the white privilege and rich growing up, but in that part you might be absolutely had it hard, but in other parts you have. And I don't think it's, maybe the key takeaway from you is that everyone can probably find parts where they're super easy, that their life's been super easy. Equally, they can probably find parts of life where it's been super hard.
Well, even
the worst thing you can do is be an entitled brat from the things you were good at and be like a victim from the things you're bad at. The best thing you can do is be really grateful for the things you had well and be really kind of strong character from the things you had bad.
That's very beautiful. Thank you. If that's how you're describing me.
Yeah, I think you've done it well.
Thank you. That is an incredible compliment. But I will say, I think everyone has a hardship in their life. And, a baby crying because they dropped their lollipop, that's the worst fucking thing that's happened to them, is dropping their lollipop. You can't say that, that's nothing, because it's completely relative. And those that experience no hardship then struggle with general resilience, stress, will still seek stress. Exactly. Or bet the human brain, I know you're trying to wrap up, but the human brain will create problems even if there aren't any. So your threshold becomes a lot less. You forgetting lunch or cooking something, you're like, oh my God. You're becoming capable of handling that and facing actual stress, whether that be physical, emotional, whatever, improves the rest of your general life and state. So, yeah. Yep. Thank you. Sorry.
Why sorry?
I don't know, because I'm a woman.
Oh, that is the worst thing. Just before, girls,
I think that's the first time that I said it.
It is. Can't believe you ended up young girls. That's been my tirade, and I probably am doing something wrong and anti-feminist or whatever. But I hate my chick mates.
I hate it too.
Addicted to saying sorry.
Well, I just feel like I've been a man hater, which I'm certainly not. Or
no, I don't think so at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I've been some pick me fucking look at me feminist. Yeah. Nah, I hate women.
You hate women. Yeah, it shows.
Those pendulum swing.
Yeah.
They are a distraction there. Just keep the blinders on, gentlemen.
Thanks, those who are watching. And I'm not sorry.
Right.
Sweet as. Hey, mate.
Now you're going to cook me dinner?
I'll whoop your ass. How the tables turn.